Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Loochador Podcast, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Looking back at A&M's 35-31 loss to USC in the Las Vegas Bowl. Plus, we're going to look at the offseason, the addition of Kevin Concepcion, and just all the things going around the A&M football program. David Nuño, Billy Liucci. Happy New Year, everybody. Luch, I understand you had some rough travels yesterday.
Oh man, it was just not rough, but just a long day.
Yeah.
It was just sometimes you wish the airline would just say delayed when it's obvious. Like we knew the storm's going on in Houston. I understand what they're trying to do. They're just going to fill up as many people on planes as they can as soon as they can go, so they can go. It's the most bull industry probably of all of them. Them and these industries that were just begging people to, Hollywood, the movies, airline, everything, please during the pandemic. And then as soon as they got the chance just to demolish you with the price gouging and flights and the delays and the lying and the not. And in fairness, I thought United was really good about this one, but they put you in the plane. You know damn well you're not about to go in the air to go to Houston with what's going on. So we sit there from 9:30 till about noon on the plane.
Oh, no.
In Vegas. Then...
Is it hot?
It wasn't bad. And then we go... Both flights there and back were pretty turbulent, but not just wind. You can't do anything. It wasn't, just not storms. It was just bumpy flight. Then you get back, and we sit on the runway. And the thing is, the way they just hit you with it at the last second, Anyway, we get there and sit there for like another hour on the runway. Then I get there, and this is the one that I have no patience for. The baggage claim at Bush Airport has gotten to be a freaking joke. And that took me 45 minutes of sitting there waiting for our bags to get there. So combine that with a drive from Houston to College Station, we had us a long Saturday. Definitely felt like a Sunday.
Well, I had a long day as well, but I flew into Easterwood. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like, that might be my go-to move moving forward.
Yeah, if you can make it work timing-wise, it's a good thing to do.
It was so easy in and out. My sons were playing a game at 6 o'clock, and I actually made it to the game when I landed. It was great.
I've had a lot of times where the Dallas connecting, that gets a little dicey sometimes, but it's okay. That airport's good to sit and have a meal.
Also, let's talk about a good industry, shall we?
Where
do you think I went today? Not before this Luchador. You know where I was at for that. Where do you think I went right before church this morning?
Academy Sports and Outdoors.
I did. A cruise needed some joggers.
Okay.
Yeah, and he goes, Dad, can we stop at Academy and get some joggers? They had really good prices on joggers, okay. Nike, you name it. They had all the brands. And usually when I go to Academy, I'm not getting joggers. I'm getting a part of the hunting community. I get the hunting stuff.
Mm-hmm. They don't want you to say that. Academy wants you to talk. The hunting and fishing community. I
caught fish today by myself, bro. With my sons.
I'm just telling you, they don't.
They elected me the risk management officer. They did, the hunting community. So I'm in. I had to politic a little bit. I'm all good. But at Academy, found exactly what we needed as I sweat profusely on this show. But I got the joggers for cruise. I looked at a couple of handguns I'm considering.
Okay.
And then we went to church. It was a great day. Academy, the place to get everything you need.
I don't know that you need a handgun with your temperamental nature.
I don't know if you've noticed.
I swear the person was breaking into my house. No, that was the pool guy coming over.
No. See, I think you've missed.
I thought it was
Nick.
Joe.
I know that I offered to fight several people during the Texas evening. I was not on the YouTube.
What'd you do today?
What did I do today?
Before you got here.
Oh, you want to make fun of me?
No, I'm asking.
Before I got here, as I mentioned, I fished with my boys for about an hour at the pond by our house.
And
then I drove to Post Oak Mall, and I was at Post Oak Mall for a little bit.
You went and wrestled at Post Oak Mall.
I did jiu-jitsu. I did. I did some leg takedowns, some snatches, and
What was that thing you were telling me about?
The reverse shrimp and the shrimps?
Yeah.
Basically, when you shrimp, you want to create space with your hips. So there's a guy on top of you trying to pummel you. You shrimp out, all right, and you regain position, and you get your guards up
by creating space with your hips.
Push,
guys on top.
Push, and then your legs push out, and then it's great.
The reverse shrimp.
And the shrimp. There's the shrimp and the reverse shrimp. The shrimp is going to push you away. The reverse shrimp is going to push you in.
I need you to reverse shrimp out of this conversation and take us
There's
to
at least
Aggie
3
football.
listeners, viewers that love
This is the first time since Friday night, Thursday night, was it Friday night? I forget now. First time since Friday night I actually am like, can we please talk about Aggie football?
So do you
actually, I take that back. That actually happened, a couple of commitments in the last 2 days. One from the class of 26, which we'll talk about that briefly later, but that 26 class is looking
really good,
better and better. I mean, I get it. Like, people today, we're going to talk plenty about the real stuff, but 2026 recruiting is off the charts. And I know, trust me, I know I'm one of them. You want to go, like, by the time those guys get here and then take a couple years to develop and be a major impact. Like, what year is that again? It's like 27 or I guess it's 26 and 27. We just finished 24. So I get it. But it does speak to the momentum that Elko and his staff are generating on the recruiting front, but not as much as what you saw today in terms of immediate impact this coming season. The next time Texas A&M plays a football game in KC Concepcion, which that's a guy A&M really wanted. Elko, Holman Wiggins, Colin Klein. It was a piece they felt like they needed. With him, Micah Hudson, and Mario Craver, those are and I know, so Hudson is that guy with the limitless upside that had a very quiet year in Lubbock as a true freshman that was injured early, but a quiet year. So you're taking him because you know everything about him from when you recruited him, and you think the upside, the ceiling. He walks onto campus and has the highest ceiling of anybody the Aggies have in the program. You've also added a 5-star receiver, in Jerome Miles out of Utah in this past signing class. But what's really exciting is to go out. There was such a big deal, and there was so much hand-wringing and negativity, about the position, in the portal and what wasn't happening. And then you get Hudson and Craver back to back. You start to get excited. Nick Anderson goes to LSU, who I including me, most people thought A&M would get him. He picks LSU. Hand-wringing again. At that time, people thought Concepcion was going to Alabama or maybe North Carolina because they targeted him in this new Belichick era. Again, it was, we can't close, we can't do it. And now you look up, and this is what I talk about the process of recruiting, but particularly the portal. Don't evaluate or grade it until it's done. And I'll say the same thing today about defensive line. They've got 3 additions there. There is some heavy lifting still to be done before we judge where they're at that position of need. Same thing with going crazy when you lost the corner to Ole Miss, and then a day or two later you get the corner from Georgia. So again, the portal is a roller coaster. It truly is. And you just have to hang in there and evaluate it at the end of the deal. This receiving group that they're bringing in is elite. And Concepcion is what they needed, to me, in the worst way, because he is a proven guy. Craver is semi-proven, and he's proven in the SEC, which I really like. And these guys had to game plan against him, and they knew what he was about. You can watch tape of him making big plays against Texas, against Georgia, against A&M. Unfortunately, a lot of guys have made big plays against A&M. That's something we'll talk about here in a minute. But this is a guy with, 1,300 career yards in 2 seasons. And at NC State, when he had a veteran quarterback the year prior, 53 for 460 this year and 6 touchdowns. I'm looking for what he had the year prior, but I don't see it.
It's going to be on the bottom, I think. No?
But it was, anyway, the year before that, some really big numbers for him. It doesn't show it here. You're just going to have to tell me. 800 yards, 10. I think he had 10 touchdowns as a freshman. So a big year at NC State. That's why everybody in the portal wanted him. He was one of the most sought-after guys. I believe the number 1 rated portal receiver.
In 23, 71 receptions, 839 yards, 10 touchdowns. Yeah. His long was a 72.
So a breakout freshman year, they get a new QB, passing numbers for that whole team go down. But he's a dynamic dude at like 5'11", 180. He's got some like Christian Kirk to him when you watch him on tape. He's tough to bring down. He's very explosive and can really make things happen crossing the field and catching the ball on the run. And he breaks tackles. He's really tough in space. I love the addition. So,
and he runs the ball a little bit too, by the way.
And I'll say something too. Yeah. He's you can motion him, weapon him that way.
In 23, 41 carries, which I think is a lot.
I didn't realize he had that many. That's a lot of carries.
Yeah, 41 carries, 320 yards in 23.
A couple of things that are interesting today. You know, like I'd love to have. I'm going to ask him next time we have him here. I want to know what Terry Bussey. Like, just say, hey, perfect world. What do you want to do in football? Like, is it receiver? Is it corner? Do you not care? Do you want to do both? Where do you think you play the longest and make the most money? All these questions, because it's a really interesting thing when you see the way the A&M corners played. Now that was without Will Lee, which was a big loss in that game. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you see the way the A&M corners fared down the stretch this season, and you go, gosh, they certainly still need help. And you're obviously bringing in Humphrey. I know if you told me there was a world where it's like Humphrey, who started 10 games at Georgia this year, and it's Des Riggs, who I know had a really rough bowl game and really a rough year, but also should have been a true freshman out of high school. It was his first year playing any college football games, really, because he redshirted at Bama and was an early grad. But I'm not selling on his talent yet. So if you gave me like Humphrey, Lee, Javon Thomas, who I think is a little bit better than people give him credit for, and then you added Terry Bussey to that, and Riggs, like that group. And that's not to say one of these young true freshmen they signed can't come in and make an impact, but I would feel really good about the competition. And then you bringing back Tyreek Chappelle, another big loss this season. That would excite the hell out of me because I would really think you'd have a hard time seeing a world where Terry Bussey wasn't one of the starting corners. Or does he feel like, man, I feel like I got a taste of receiver, and maybe him and the coaching staff think he can be really, I know he can be really good there, but that'll be an interesting off-season one. I'd love to know where Bussey's head is at personally, because maybe something like that opens that up. And if it doesn't, then I'm looking at the receiver core with those three portal guys, Noah Thomas, Terry Bussey, Jabri, who I think's steady Eddie.
Think about Jabri for a second.
He's steady Eddie.
He could have been a 1A this year, but I think the injury kind of pushed him back a little bit. How much better that room is when he is maybe your third or fourth receiver. Maybe he emerges too, but I guess what I'm saying is...
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Somebody's going to be, and that floor has been raised. They raised the ceiling and the floor, no question about it. They're going to be the most improved position at A&M next year. So that's a positive. And look, we're going to talk about all your negatives, and we're going to be real honest, and we're not going to sit here, if you want to sit here today and say, hey, is Billy going to come in here and say X coach should be fired? And no, I'm not going to do that. So if you're here for a sound bite and you're a Longhorn, you can bet your ass I'll give you one. If you're an Aggie that's wanting to hear that there's just no reason for hope right now, you're not going to get that either. If you want to hear disappointment in this closing stretch, we're going to talk about that plenty, because it was plenty disappointing. So, but you're going to ride this wave with me here, so you're going to deal with it. If I say something positive, don't cry, okay? Because I know that's hurting a lot of people's feelings right now, and I promise you there's negative to talk about. But don't cry if I happen to say something positive, or if I happen to point something out you don't like. I don't want to make anyone cry today. I hope you guys are ready for this, because based on what I saw, I get the after game stuff to a degree. A lot of people go way too far, and you go way too far with the personal. And I'll handle it. And like I've always said, you have an open door here if it's bothering you that much. If you got banned, and believe it or not, there was only a small handful. Like not even two handfuls.
It was like 3 or 4 guys.
I can fit them in one hand. If you got banned, don't call me later and say you're an alcoholic and that you were going through some tough times and you decided to MF me, or Nuño, or Broninger, or Howell, or Brandon Jones, or TexAgs, like, it's just not the way it works. Just be decent. Don't tell me you can't be critical on TexAgs. I think we let probably way too much go because it's kind of hard to contain. There's such a high volume. The dumbest thing you could ever say if you're on that side is that they don't allow dissenting opinion or negativity. Go read stop talking about that.
Just don't make it personal.
By the way, I'm trying to not cuss on this one today because I met, in the last week, there's been so many young TexAgs fans that have come up to me with their parents, and they're huge fans, and we love you guys. I might start TexAgs. We might have to start
TexAgs After Dark?
No. Sorry. We might have to start like something where they don't have a weekly show, but maybe we get somebody to do like where the kids are firing off questions or sending in their opinion, their takes on the game.
We could do that on TexAgs
Make it a little
Live.
content piece,
We can do that. Yeah, I like it.
I think it would be fun. We've got a lot of
TexAgs kids.
We've got I see. This is why social media ruins everything.
Why?
People are just silly.
TexAgs for kids is a great idea.
Okay, TexAgs.
And he said TexAgs for
Some would say
tots.
that this is for kids anyway, just the way we act. But anywho, what do you say? TexAgs
for
rocks.
tots.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Oh, so that one you like?
I like TexAgs rocks, and it can be like just a fun segment.
Like Nancy Reagan, say no to drugs.
No, they send it. Where did that come from?
It was a message to kids.
They send in their videos, like with their takes on the game. So anyway, we're gonna try not to. I'm gonna try to make this user friendly today. But let's say this: when you get a commitment from a guy like KC Concepcion, and it's a massive commit, and look, it doesn't mean no one's sitting here saying national champs, but it is. In no world is that not extremely positive news for this program, for Mike Elko, for the passing game, for Marcel Reed. So to put that news out there and just have it crapped on by so many of people at A&M, because God forbid they should try to fix a problem and do so by adding an impact player. God forbid they should do that because that's just going to piss people off more, apparently. I saved some of them because I was like, these people suck, and I want people to know that these specific people suck. So let me find my bookmarks here. And these people, Sam.
Hey, Sam.
Maybe it could be SVM Price is his username. He sadly won't do shiitake with it.
Kaka.
We've been cursed since Kingsbury. Okay. This is what I wrote. That set of receivers plus Moss, Owens, Daniels, and an O-line that could essentially return 5 starters plus year 2 Marcel Reed gives Colin Klein a lot to work with in year 2 in Aggieland. Pretty tame, right? Like, you're listing the skill, talent. I think Moss is proven. I think everybody knows Owens is good. Amari is probably one of your better RB3s around. It's a great running back stable, right? They proved it. 5-star no lineman group that took a big jump this year, and then the receivers. Quarterback in year 1 to year 2, hopefully. Never a guarantee, but it should be. Exciting young quarterback. I think that's not going too far with it.
He had a really good game.
Of course Billy is saying that. Aggie developer. This guy wants to come show me his resume and his career body work. Aggie developer. I'm okay with that. But I will line up my developer friends against you, and we'll see how you feel about your developing skills, Aggie developer. I'll be honest. I've had one job. My resume, could fit right here. And I love it, Aggie developer. This is my resume. Yours probably looks really good, dude. I'm sure you're very impressive. Of course Billy is saying that. It's the start of the season where TexAgs lies to us about how good we're going to be. There's nothing impressive happening at A&M. Stop listening. Stop reading. Stop following. And I would say, for the people that say I want to stop following Aggie sports, isn't that? Do it. Go away. Go develop more. You can be like... the monopoly guy and just add land and add property and be Aggie developer. You can introduce yourself as Aggie developer to people because Twitter matters so much. So I've got more. I mean, but that's basically the gist of it. Klein will still call a run up the middle to the injured third string running back. This is what I'm talking about. Just, you report that Amari Daniels isn't playing and everybody wanted to make that, they wanted to revisit and dig up the body of the fourth down call to Amari Daniels and say that, oh, you handed the ball to, it's like they handed it to a guy in a wheelchair. He played through a rotator cuff injury. It's very painful. He could hold the football and run it. Just better to get that done. Yeah. You're going to be out 5 months. Why wait a month to play in that bowl game? So anyway, everything's got to be negative with a certain group. And I'm here to tell you today, I get the negativity. It doesn't mean you have to crap on everything from now until it is up to your standard. And we've all got a standard here. But it's just not going to be one of those off seasons. I will happily battle with you guys every step of the way. And call it like it is, which we're about to do.
Billy, before the season, I'm fairly sure you and I were aligned on this. I thought they were probably an 8-4 team.
I was on that 8-4, 9-3.
Yeah,
fence.
I mean, and when you're 8-4, a play or two does make a difference between 7-5 and 9-3 for sure. Yeah. But that's where I was. This is who they were. Now the difference is there was the crash at the end, right? And you can point at several things. You can point, potentially at the 4th and 1s. You can point at injuries. There's a lot of things you can point at. So where I'm at as a Aggie fan analyst is, I'm not pessimistic. I'm at a more of like, we'll see.
Yeah, that's not where we wanted to be.
No.
Because you had gotten your hopes up in season. Mm-hmm. And you looked at that schedule. And you saw South Carolina and you saw Auburn. And you knew what Texas was coming in, but you also saw them coming at home. And if I'd have told you they'd held Texas to 17.
You thought you'd have a chance.
And you said, nope, your offense won't score a point. I would have said, damn it. And if you'd have said, you're going to score 41 on the road at Auburn, and you're going to score, 31, was it 31 in regulation? I would say, okay, awesome. They're going to win that one. And if you would have told me, South Carolina, I don't know what happened. You couldn't have told me anything about that game that would have made me feel good. I guess you said you had 20 first half points against that defense. But instead, what gets me is the start of the season, not Notre Dame, but the start, the 8-game start being 7-1, wins over LSU and Missouri, couple of road wins, at Florida, at Mississippi State. These aren't things to go celebrate with a trophy or a parade, but these are things that you were seeing as steps that recent A&M teams fell short in. Challenges that they could not conquer on the road anywhere in the SEC, but a place like the Swamp, a place like, which, by the way, neither LSU nor Ole Miss won over there, to get that win over, Mississippi State, which they're not a good team, but A&M historically struggled in Starkville. That's what would bite them, to win 2 top 10 games at home by a lot of points, 41-10. You won those 2 games by 48 combined points. These are things we hadn't seen from recent A&M teams. That was exciting. That was a reason to get energetic and to look at that final stretch and go, man, you could see 10-2. Almost go, they shouldn't finish worse than 9-3, which would be a great first year. And then there was that whole thing about the SEC title game and the potential there, that all you had to do was make a stop on 4th down against Auburn or catch 3rd down pass or 2-point convert. There were a million things in that game where you're just going, oh. But when you add it all together, you lost, on its face, 8-4 is a pretty good, it's a really good first season for a head coach in the SEC. It just is. I know people don't want to hear that. They don't. On its face, though, and 8-4s are created differently. And so the fact that all of the good, the good of that 8-4 came at the front end, pretty much, and all of the bad came once you got to this point. And combined with that, you walk into the offseason, I think, with a lot of questions. And people thought I was really negative in the Ask Liucci segment this week, but it was more about where I got, I think more like, I think I scared people was I'm in with Elko long-term. I think he's going to be a hell of a hire at A&M. He's going to figure it out. I'm more concerned with this coming season. So in addition, like Concepcion makes me a lot less concerned. To close out this portal thing with some real D linemen makes me a lot less concerned. I wouldn't mind throwing in another DB. I don't know that they're trying to do that just yet after watching that bowl game. And I know, look, they were without, how many guys that will be, 3 guys that will be playing a ton next year in that secondary, not to mention all the true freshmen. What you got? You're without Lee, Chappelle, Javon Thomas, and Humphrey. I still would like to see them maybe add one more if you could get a really good one. But a lot of that too, I think. So when you look at that, like a nickel, I would like to see them add another kind of true nickel. And if you could, then maybe you really up that competition at corner with Chappelle and Humphrey and who knows, maybe Bussy and Ricks and Willie. Then all of a sudden I'm going, okay. But because of how it played out, I'm going into the season looking at next year's schedule because there was so much opportunity with this year's schedule, the way it shook out. And it looks a lot harder next year. So I'm looking at next year's team and I'm going, they have to build. And I know, guys, you're down about 8-4. It's not the 8-4 that should bother you. It's the 1-4 that should bother you. And that is what bothers me. It's the 1-4, and it's not like 3 of those 4 don't even Texas is a better football team all year. Should A&M have played better? Yes. Could they have stolen that game, punch it in from a yard, 17-14, 6-7 minutes left? Of course. It was there to be stolen against a team that was better than you, that this season has proven is better. South Carolina on the road at night, yeah, but here's the problem. You didn't score an offensive point against Texas. They ran for almost 300 yards rushing in that game. Auburn is a bad football team. They scored 31 on you, and they went down the field on your defense early for 3 touchdowns and late when you had a stop to win the game. They carved you up. Auburn, Peyton Thorne, South Carolina, I'm telling you, there's not shame in going on the road and losing to that football team this year. But they outscored you 24-0 in the second half. So USC, I said it before the game, and I knew, what people are going to say when you say stuff. And I don't give a damn beyond that I like arguing, and I will continue to do that. But I knew when I said it what people were going to say. The game doesn't really matter. But if I'm going to say there's anything to be gained from that game in terms of momentum, there is momentum to be lost in a certain way to lose that game. And the way A&M lost it, they lost momentum going into the offseason. Mm-hmm. It was almost like, and there's facts to this too, man. Like, the Aggies were without Will Lee, who's an all-SEC type player this year. They were without Nick Scorton, who was first-team all-SEC, Shamar Stewart, who was second-team all-SEC, and Shamar Turner, who will be in the NFL. They were also without Scooby Williams, who I think is their best lineman, most impactful playmaking linebacker, who missed most of that Texas game as well. That's 5 starters on defense they played without. Problem is USC played without a ton of dudes on their offense. That quarterback was terrible. He had how many yards and 4 touchdowns?
Mavia, 295
yards and 4 touchdowns. And right when they give me something to really be excited about, which was Marcel Reed, you talk about being excited. I didn't care how many points A&M gave up as long as they won. But with a defense without 5 starters out of 11 and no depth in the secondary because of those 2 extra injuries to corner, I didn't mind. If you'd have told me they're going to give up 30 plus, okay, then they need to score 40. They should have scored 41 as it was. And I'll talk about that in a second. But If they would have won that game 31-28 with Marcel Reed scrambling, making throws, running in for the game-winning touchdown with a minute and a half left or whatever it was, that's the way you send off into the offseason with excitement. Noah Thomas with the great touchdowns. Marcel Reed, his first game-winning drive engineered. Just 9 wins. So when I say all that is positive to be gained, when your defense goes out and gives up that drive, and I know they're without those guys, and that's part of why it went that way. But, man, there are a lot of guys that are going to be starting on this defense next year that were out there letting this guy who is basically USC's JV quarterback carve them up and playing way off on the goal line and throughout that drive and just letting this guy who can't play, he's not good, throw pitch and catch. And you sack him one time the whole game, which is crazy because I felt like Cassius Howell was harassing him the whole game. That was another real bright spot. But that's how you lose momentum, and losing to Texas at home the way you did by not scoring a point on offense. Losing to Auburn, it's like that South Carolina game. I wrote this, David. It felt like that loss took a lot out of this team.
Mm-hmm. What's so fun about fun? It can take any form. Be a sacred ritual.
Who wants chicken?
Or a random whim. For us, fun is everything. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
Part of it was physical. A lot of it was mental, too. I talked to somebody close to the Texas program, believe it or not, and when they lost to Georgia at home, they were actually, so the person who was close to there said, it's a good thing we're playing Vandy next because Vandy's pretty good. Like, they weren't disrespecting Vandy. It was before the game. It said, they needed to play one of the SEC teams that just doesn't quite going to match up with Texas talent-wise. And they needed to go play in a road environment that was not going to be too,
crazy,
too brutal, too terroristic over there. And because they said that Georgia game took a lot out of them. Physically, mentally, it messed them up.
Yep.
And to their credit, they rebounded and hadn't lost since. Well, they did lose again to Georgia, but I mean, they finished the regular season without losing. A&M did not recover from the South Carolina loss like that. That to me was a big difference there. They did not recover like that. They went into a bye week, then they played New Mexico State, and then finished out with Auburn, Texas. They never got it back. And part of it is because they lost Le'Veon Moss for the year in that game. That's when Scooby Williams got hurt a second time. He played through the knee injury all year. Then he hurt the ankle. Besantis was out during that stretch. And then I think their physicality, Nuño, was challenged on defense. And teams realized they weren't up to the task there either. Their physicality, they don't play zone. Okay, this team's going to have to sit in man defense. And Texas and Auburn even had the horses to say, if you're going to do that. But they tested the physicality. You look at South Carolina, you look at Auburn, you look at Texas. What they did running the football at this is the starting defense. They got after them, and I just think the way teams played A&M changed. And with Marcel Reed in the passing game, they said, you're going to have to beat us throwing the ball.
Right.
And we're going to just sell out, stop you from running. Well, you combine that with no Besantis, no Moss. It was a kind of a perfect storm that they were unable to recover from. But the problem is this. That's just fact. That's just what happened, in my opinion. That's just trying to kind of explain. It's not an excuse. It's just like, what happened? Well, here you go. This is what I think happened. My problem is that makes it where you go, yeah, but still. And that's where, if we didn't have a yeah, but still, but my yeah, but still was like, there's a million ways you should have beaten Auburn.
Yep. Million ways you should have won this weekend.
And this USC game, you watch it, and you could write it off and say it's a bowl game. People don't really care. There's opt-outs. There's, guys holding out.
USC cared.
A&M cared.
Yeah.
A&M cared. And I was right there watching from where they cared a lot. And that's the pot that, whatever. I mean, they wanted to win that game. It wasn't like a scrimmage. Neither team treated it as such. You had guys really trying to play. And that again, that's what bothers me is you had a lot of guys on this A&M defense that are going to be relied upon next year, that got carved up by the second team USC offense, essentially, and carved up when it mattered. I don't know what happened. They held them to 7 points in the first half. They go up 24-7. They're rolling along, but they missed so many opportunities in the first half. A couple times where you got short yardage and you had to punt. The interception in the end zone, that was a huge swing there early. I know they missed the field goal at the end of the half, but you had that play where I thought they blocked the punt. I was shocked they didn't. It's down there on the field. It sounded like they blocked it, and they didn't. I had someone tell me what a terrible special teams play that was. I don't think it was. I think that one, they're just straight up going for the block. I guess he missed the block, but the penalty kept you from getting the ball with a chance to go into halftime with the lead. There was time there. A lot of mistakes early that allowed it to be a game late, but the real thing was when you go up 24-7 and you go back-to-back 3 and out. 24-7, you let them go right down and score, and then you get hit with a 3 and out, and then you do another 3 and out. It's almost the only way you're going to lose that momentum and blow that lead. And the problem with it is, again, you could throw this out, say it's a bowl game. You got freaking Pop-Tarts dancing around. You've got, it's silly season in 2024. It's not, though, because of the way A&M lost. It was Mike Elko really wanted to win for this program just to kind of continue to get that mindset changed and to have this feel good going in. But it was more of the same, which is frustration at the end. And it was letting a game get away at the end like you did against Auburn. It was the inability for your defense to get stopped when you needed it, like what happened against Auburn, like what happened against against USC, like what happened against Notre Dame even. It was falling just short in short yardage or like key pivotal situations in the game, like you did against Texas, like you did against Auburn. So it was just that's the frustration, because you go, it's more of the same. And then, it's some of the same stuff on the coaching end too, where you go, the defense doesn't look like it's adapting to stop these. The best thing I know about Mike Elko are halftime adjustments. And the reason I know that is because A, I've seen it, and B, you talk to anyone that's ever played for him, and they're in that locker room when they're getting run on or thrown on, and then they come out and adjust, and because they're in there and they know what he does specifically. You didn't see a defense with the ability to adjust, and even if you told me, well, they can't do this and they can't do that because of personnel, you've got to figure something out, because to let USC score, 28 in the second half on you that's not an acceptable answer. To let Auburn score the most points they did on anybody all year is not an acceptable answer. And in the Texas game, when you go, well, we held them to 17 points, and that's amazing, but to let them run all over a Mike Elko defense like that's not the right answer either. And then, okay, South Carolina, the amount of missed tackles was crazy. And then I thought at halftime, okay, they're tied up. They were down 17-0, or was it 17-3? To go score 20 straight and go in tied, you felt good. They're going to fix this tackling thing, and they never did. So that's a real concern of mine that I think. So it's my point of saying all this is coaching too. It's a lot coaching, and that's what Elko addressed after the game. He's got to figure out, like, that defensive effort down the stretch this year was unacceptable on a lot of levels. You think 24 unanswered in the second half against South Carolina, 44 total. Season high for Auburn, including going up 21-0. Texas, even though like the second half, you pitched a shutout. You had a game-changing pick, a forced fumble in the red zone. They went up 17-0 on you in the first half, and they took, and to some degree, they took the air out of the ball because they were up 17-0. All they had to do was win to get on. So, and again against USC, yes, you were depleted on defense, but Bryce Anderson was out there, Ratcliffe was out there, Dalton Brooks was out there.
Torian was out there.
Des Ricks was out there. Torian York was out there. Albert Regis was out there. A lot of guys that might start for you next year were out there. And USC was, I think, without more. And you're sitting there and you hold him to 7 first half points. You pick this guy off 3 times, but you still your coverage is so bad.
You had more yards than them.
Your lack of pass rush is so bad that you got this guy one time. But then you could say, like, a coach could probably sit here and go, Billy, we can't blitz because we can't cover on the back end. I think your 4-man rush should have gotten to him more than that. That's crazy. And at what point do you blitz more to say, make this guy throw accurately against this blitz? Because what we're doing isn't. It's weird because it's not working, but it was working for a good part of the game, and then all of a sudden it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of questions on defense. I think people are asking me about staff changes. I'm like, look, Mike Elko's got to come back. He's got to go in there, and coaches don't want to shake things up after 1 year, ever. And I don't know that you. I know that you shouldn't, and I'm not saying there should be a shake up, but I think he needs to take, and he will, because he will, a hard look at what happened on both sides of the ball. What went wrong? What went right? Obviously, he has made it very clear he is really disappointed, I would say disgusted, with how the defense performed this year. And he kind of alluded to, we were hiding. We were lucky earlier in the year. You think about the long touchdown to Missouri that got called back, the overthrow on the long touchdown. You think about the Florida game where they had a crosser, probably a touchdown, and that one's dropped. I think he recognized a weakness all year, and I think to say that these guys couldn't really pick up zone defense was really interesting to me, because I think they proved we're not enough to sit. You don't want to sit there and have to play man against Texas or even, Cam Coleman and Lambert Smith at Auburn. Like, you don't want to live, even if you have good DBs. Georgia didn't play man. They didn't man up Texas receivers the whole game. When they were in Austin, they spent most of that game in zone, probably more than Kirby Smart's ever done. It's not what you want to do. But when you say we're not capable of this, it's one of two things. You went and assembled the wrong guys trying to put this thing together, or you're saying we couldn't coach them up to do it. And so there's questions there that he has to go back and look at. And I think, he's going to figure out the answers to it. And whether that's some minor staff movement, I don't think you're going to see anything significant. I always say with 10 guys, it's rare that you're going to keep them all anyway. Or is he going to have to make some tough decisions? I think they're all tough, but when people are talking about, do you change in coordinator? I think in Mike Elko's case, probably a lot of what he's looking at on the defensive side is to go, what's our biggest issues? And I don't know, Nuño, what his level of hands-onness. He said earlier, it's my defense. It's Mike Elko defense, whatever. But I don't know, like, in-game or during the week. Like, I have to think during the week he's very hands-on. That's his baby. But I don't know in-game what his level is there. So I don't know if changing that can lead to a big bump, or if it's, hey, this looks nice on paper, but we need to just keep loading up the back seven because we're not where we need to be personnel wise. It's probably got to be a combination of both. But he's got some tough decisions. I don't know, man. Where do you come off on the offense?
I want to see what Marcel looks like with a full offseason as the guy working with Colin, and Colin gearing to his specialty. I think
I love that last drive.
That was beautiful. It was great. It was the closest thing we've seen to LSU. I
wish we'd see more run game out of Marcel.
I like when they roll him out. They didn't do that a lot this year at times.
I thought Marcel did a better job this week of taking what the defense gave him. I love the third. Was it fourth down, or was it the fourth down play, or third and one, fourth and one, when he that timing route to Ja'Day Walker down there. It might have been a fourth.
It was
down.
a fourth one.
It was early. I like some of the things he did. I loved that last drive. I thought only one of his interceptions was bad, and it was essentially like a punt. It was an ill-advised throw. I thought he had a better get. Like he played.
I thought he played well.
He played well.
I did.
But yeah, Colin Klein in the offense, I think it's interesting because I think you're watching like you had year one of this coordinator. There are people that think that they didn't want, like, I read a lot where people think they didn't want Connor as the starting quarterback. I'm not sure Connor doesn't think that, which as a kid that age, I wouldn't blame him. But I think they absolutely wanted it to be Connor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was the guy. And I said this all year.
He looked the way it practiced.
And I think Marcel would sit here and say, yeah, he won the job. Like, he was the dude. And even though it's like, well, Colin Klein likes winning quarterbacks that he likes to be able to run and throw the ball, if you look at his history, and throw the ball vertically down the field. And there was an adjustment period when you brought in a redshirt or a freshman, essentially, that had played one game. That wasn't – now, Marcel had some really nice moments, but that wasn't the plan exactly how you wanted it to draw out. You would have loved to have seen Connor Wigman have a great year, go to the NFL, and then it's Marcel's turn. That was what would be optimal. I mean, so I thought there's a period to adapt. The offense stunk against Notre Dame. It stunk against Texas. We could go all day about the reasons why, but the reality is in the first game and the last game, it was pretty awful. One touchdown combined in 8 quarters.
I was told by a coach that part of the problem was the DBs just lined up man-to-man because they did not respect the wide receivers.
Yeah,
and
it's part of it.
And it made it very easy for them to play A&M's offense.
It's hard to run, and then you lost. Like I said, in the games you lost, you were without Le'Veon Moss. It was a big deal, especially in short yardage. I read some people were saying like, Liucci said that fourth down if you'd have had Moss against Texas. They're like, Earl Campbell couldn't have scored that one. I'm like, you're right. Bo Jackson, Earl Campbell, Jim Brown, none of them are scoring on that one. I meant the earlier one, first of all, which, unfortunately, Daniels got tackled on an arm tackle and your tight end whiffed on a block. And I'm just talking about in general, short yardage inability killed A&M against South Carolina, Auburn, and Texas. And even a little bit the other night.
Yeah.
And people go, why are you running against stacked box? Sometimes it's okay. You got the right guys in there. It's okay to do that when you need a yard. Go look at the NFL. They do it all the time. Now, you can't just run into a wall all day. You got to mix it up and make them pay for that. But not all the time. You can do it sometimes when you need a yard or you need a foot. Losing those guys hurt that running game. Therefore, it hurt Marcel in the passing game because teams loaded up.
Yep. They
dared you. What you needed was a run game to make them go, okay, we got to commit some safety help here. And then it opens things up. And then you're not living in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. You're in some 2nd and 6s, 2nd and 5s. Those opportunities got less and less and less. But the offense, though, at the same time, I go, what'd they do the other night, man? Every time there was a bad play, I heard Colin Klein, and then like the next play would be really good and people would shut up. And I'm not saying like you had some bad games offensively, but I say should have. There's always a should have, but you had a ball go off a wide receiver's helmet in the end zone for an interception, and you missed a chip shot field goal by your kicker that was outstanding this year. I'm looking at 31. That
should have been 41.
Should have been 41. There's always a should have been. But guys, if you're listening, you watch the game, you know what I'm saying. It was 41. It was drawn up to be 41. It's a simple catch, and it's a simple field goal. So they had scored the most.
That changed the game, by the way.
They scored the most of any team against Auburn this year, including Georgia, including Bama, and whoever Auburn played. They scored the most that any team put up on them. I thought they had a tremendous game against Florida. They were fine against Mississippi State, putting up 34. They lit up LSU with a 28-point was it a 30-point second? 31-point second
31
half.
seconds.
Like Missouri, they were almost flawless offensively. There were some really high moments this year, probably more so this year than in like the last 2 years combined.
For sure.
For this offense. So I think people are a little hard on this one because the lows were so low. Even against South Carolina, they like storm out, slow start, and then they storm out at 20 straight points. It's like, I don't think that offense, I don't think people should look at the offense and be overly negative going into this offseason when you combine, yes, there were highs and lows, but when you combine what they did do with what they're bringing in. Like, look, is there work to be done? Yes. Is it a sure thing? Am I sitting here going, hell yeah? No. But I think there's enough to look at to go, this has a potential to be a lot more than it was. And a big part of that, you said it at the very beginning, is Colin Klein developing Marcel and Marcel taking that progression. So it's both sides have to be a part of that. But there's a lot, I'm telling you, there's a lot to work with. And you should return all 5 linemen. I'm counting like Naboo at center. We talk about receiver. We talk about running back. Like it. And if they don't, then you've got a problem because I don't think you can. Not that people were leaning on it, but I don't think the excuse is there. A, it's year 2. B, you've had a whole offseason to work with your quarterback that you've gone all in on. If they didn't think, that's the decision you made. If you didn't make that decision, you would have gone portaling. You made that decision. You've got a whole offseason with him. He's had a whole season as a starter. He had some real bright spots, and I think ended on a high note. And look, I mean, really, Texas ate Marcel and the entire A&M offense up, just like they've done to a lot of teams, most everybody they've played this year. It took Cade Klubnik to get at that secondary. That dude's a potential first-round pick a year from now. That's what it took to get at that secondary. That's why I think the only team that can stop them will be in Dallas, whether it's Oregon or Ohio State. You need up Will Howard. You don't, but that's what it took. So Marcel and this offense with no running game, they weren't going to do that. But 2 of his last 3 games, he had what? I mean, some really nice. What did he have the other night? Almost 50 yards rushing, 300 passing, 3 touchdowns. He had the 2 picks, 26 of 42. And then you look at his numbers against Auburn. Like 2 of his last 3 games, he was really freaking good. So we'll see offensively, but I think you're out of excuses there next year. I mean, you got the guys you want in the portal at receiver. You bring back the O-lineman, and then you bring back the running back. You bring back a nice stable, and your quarterback's year 2 as a starter. It's not a negative to sit here and say the clock starts now, like Klein, Marcel, the offense. It's not a negative. It's actually like something to be excited about.
I'm not trying to be funny, but it is kind of funny. But did Peyton Thorne look better in year 2 with Hugh Freeze?
I guess so. He did against A&M, but yeah, he did.
Overall, he was a better quarterback. We can and should expect a better version of Marcel. And Marcel's highs this year were fantastic. He had a couple lows, no doubt. Got to fix the defense. And you're bringing in personnel to hopefully do that. That's
honestly my biggest concern. 2 concerns. I think they took a big step towards what I was really excited about early in the season is they were learning to win, David. They were learning to win. I watched a team, go on the road and break some, embarrassing streak and do it fairly easily twice. I watched a team go win a game up at Arkansas that they had to win in the 4th quarter when it was a struggle. I've been going, okay, these guys are learning how to win. And then I watched Missouri come in here, smacked around from the start. I watched LSU come in here and take it to A&M in the first half. Quality team, a big name opponent that's given A&M fits over the years. They come out in the second half and just that was unfortunately that's where the season peaked. It was too soon, Halloween weekend, but they beat the piss out of see, I did it again. They beat the crap out of those smack talkers from Baton Rouge. And don't you forget it down there. They humiliated y'all. This team that you're laughing about every time they've lost a game since. They humiliated your football team. So when I watch that, for that to have been the peak, that's the frustration, because I felt like, okay, damn, this program under Elko in year one is doing something very important, and that is learning what it takes to win week after week, different venues and environments, coming out ready to play off the rip at home, adjusting and playing from behind and coming back to they were checking so many boxes. And then unfortunately, like, I think I worry that it was probably 2 steps forward and a step back. You took like 1 step forward this year, but you definitely took a step back in that, you know, those figuring out ways to lose is what I started seeing from this team again. And that's what has haunted this program for a long time. And there's a lot of frustration in that. And that is why the fans are so upset, because even though it was year one, and if you went into the year and said 8-4, a lot of people would have gone, oh yeah, okay. Okay, do you want me to tell you about the bowl game? No, I don't really care about a bowl game, whatever. It's the way it got there. And that's where it just grated. I understand where it just grates on everybody, because you go, dude, like, you got my hopes up, but there's nothing wrong with the hopes getting up. The key is how do you keep the hopes up that this thing's doing this? And the way they finish the season, you definitely lose a lot of that, you know. But I think people say, well, what about this culture? Why are they, you know, I thought you said the culture changed. I absolutely think the culture changed. Culture does play a role in whether you win or lose football games. But when I talk culture, I talk about the buy-in. I talk about guys playing in the bowl, guys coming back and turning down the NFL, not making foolish decisions to go in. I know part of that's NIL, and that's fine too. It's how many guys did you see get arrested? There's a couple. How many guys did you have to see suspended from football games for reasons we didn't know about, and they were suspended and didn't play? I hear all about, like, you know, behind the scenes weight room attendance and what it is now versus then, and summer off season, you know, everything you talk about, guys getting here early and being a part of the program early. There's a lot of stuff going on that to me goes, the culture is there. Winning some games on the road, albeit early. The culture, like, just, I think it's there, and I think that was a big thing to fix. I don't think it's an excuse to go, well, we were having to fix the culture, and along the way, we were unable to get them ready to win football games. And that's not what Elko was saying, but I mean, when you get to 7-1, you want to see it finish differently. And you should, and they should have. They absolutely should have. I mean, look, they should have won this one. They should have won Auburn. You leave it at that. Not that they would have played USC if they'd have beat Auburn, but I mean, you leave it at that. And this is a 10-3 football team.
We'd be feeling great.
How much different do we feel? And what was the difference? A minute? Well, the difference was, I'll tell you your difference.
The defense.
Your difference was your defense not being able to keep a below average offensive football team. Now, Auburn had a lot of talent. They got an NFL back. They got NFL receivers, probably 3 of them, and they had a senior quarterback. But I forget, it doesn't matter. It's just you got the ball where a stop wins a football game, and you let 2 teams that aren't known for their offense or scoring points go all the way down the field on you and score to win it or send it to overtime. That's what kept you from 10-3. And things feeling really good. So when I look ahead, my concern is the defense.
Yep.
Because you lost 3 NFL
and we would have
D-line.
never guessed that, Billy.
No.
That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's big salt in the wound. That before the season, you're like, I don't have to worry about the defense. We got to worry about this offensive line and this offense.
It's also the side of the ball, though, that I feel the most confident and comfortable that Mike Elko will fix.
Yeah.
I really do. But And you know what? I think he'll fix it, or I believe he'll fix it. I think he got out of his comfort zone a little bit, or not out of his comfort zone, but out of character a little bit during the offseason, talking about how he thought this had a chance to be the best defense he had at A&M, because he knows what he had in those 4 years. A couple of them were really good. All of them were pretty good.
Yeah.
He knew what he had. And for him to say that in front of the media, in front of cameras, means he believed it. He doesn't just say it as like to hype up and then have it held against him later. Like he's cognizant of that. He doesn't do a lot of that, as you know. So when he said that, I was like, damn, that resonates. And I know he felt that way. So for the defense to have done what they didn't do down the stretch of this season, if there's one thing I'm confident he is both capable and going to be obsessed with fixing, it's that side of the ball. My question, though, as we sit here today, is how and with who. So I like these additions in the portal on the D-line. I like what they have coming back in Regis, and especially in Howell and Ryland and DJ Hicks. But that is not nearly enough up front. Just not in this league. We saw that this year. We see it everywhere. And then also, you want to keep, again, elevating your ceiling. So I still think there's a need to find a difference maker on that D-line. You can't be content because I go, oh, they added 5 portal pieces.
Right,
well, who are they? And what are they going to do next year? Because I can tell you what you lost. You played this year with probably 2 guys that'll go no worse than the second, or if the bottom falls out mid-third, potential first rounder. And then in Shamar Turner, I think a middle round guy. And so you lost 3 NFL guys. What are you replacing them with? You could bring back your whole back 7. But I'm like, is that good enough? So is it guys on the bench that are going to come beat guys out? Because we heard what Mike Elko thought about their inability in pass coverage this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, it's Julian Humphrey and several talented true freshmen, and then it's the guys you have coming back. I guess technically it's Humphrey and Chappelle, because you didn't have them all year, and then the guys. So, man, I still think they need to do work in the portal for me to be truly bullish on this. Like X's and O's wise and tinkering and making changes, or whether they're tinkering or whether there is significant change, whatever he chooses to do with his staff or any of that, like I'm confident he'll get that part right.
Yeah.
But you still need the players, and that D-line loses so much that you have to replace it with a lot. You can't just go, okay, new guys up. They lose so much, you have to replace it with a lot. And then the other side is, the back 7. Like, how do you get better at covering the pass?
Well,
and part of that has to be, David, that the personnel was not equipped enough as they should have been.
Before I let you go, or last thing, that D-line you're talking about, all that they lost, they did lose NFL talent, but we need to see more from that defensive line regardless.
Well, that's what you're going to ask of your coaches.
Yeah. Because, the production from the front
and Tony
was not...
Jarrett, you say that's a development. So, yeah.
I was underwhelmed with the defensive line this year, even as good as they were.
It started off where, the first couple games they weren't getting sacked, but then they started, I thought, to hit a real stride. You forget about the sack numbers. It's like what they did
pressure-wise
to running games.
Yeah.
You look in that stretch of LSU, Missouri, Mississippi State. What was the other games? And there was LSU, Missouri, Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas. Like what they were doing, they were controlling games. That was a really nice stretch. Again, like I said, Team South Carolina kind of started it to say, we're just going to run at you because you're smallish at linebacker. Certainly like Scooby, and I think Scooby could be a star player for this defense next year. I actually do. But Torian and Scooby are not very big, and you're playing with 2, and then your front 4, like Scorton is not the longest defensive end, and guys can get hands on him, and he's a terrific pass rusher, and a chaser. So I said, we're going to go just downhill right at him. Shamar Turner is probably a 3-4 end. I think he could excel at that in the NFL, but he was forced to play in there. I think he was a little light.
Mm-hmm.
He came in the summer at 300, but that's a smaller framed 300. That's not this
right.
So, and he could be fine there, and he had games where he was great. But when you add all of that up, it's like these dudes are fast and athletic, and let's just run at them. And then once South Carolina showed that was a successful formula, well, Auburn was equipped to do that. Texas was equipped to do that. USC, it's not the same team. They ran with more success than you want to. But those three teams, I thought really, and that's where that D-line definitely underwhelmed. And we talk about the lack of holding calls and yada, yada. Yeah, it was a crap. I still don't think there was one called, right, against USC.
Yeah.
So, like the final 9 games or whatever it was, A&M didn't get a holding call. That's absolutely ridiculous, but it's also partially like if you have like Von Miller would have got holding calls during that stretch. Myles Garrett would have got holding calls during that stretch. Elite guys that just are problematic and are blowing past tackles. What they have to do is grab you.
Yep.
And they weren't. It didn't happen in those final games, and the reason why is because they lined up and powered at them. They didn't let them chase and get after the quarterback, and then QBs kind of started stepping up and realizing that there was a lot of that far edge. So teams adjusted, and the Aggies didn't were unable to. So that is when I talk about next year, and people go, "Man, that was my concern moving forward." My other thing I want to say before we go, I thought, David, one guy that you can't come out of this USC game without talking about that I thought was really freaking good and deserves mention. Two players. BJ Mays had another pick.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that came in from UAB as a corner, and he probably, I'm sure he gave up. He's part of a secondary that got torched a lot. Okay, it's just the reality. But he came from UAB. He got hurt in camp. He didn't start early. It took injuries and then Jaden Hill struggling at the nickel for them to move him from corner to nickel. He found a niche. He was a massive part of the biggest win of the year against LSU with those 2 picks, game changer, and had another one in the bowl game. The other guy that stood out to me, and I thought Trey Watson had a nice year.
Trey Watson had a really nice
year. A 1-year tight end. He made some big plays for the team this season as well. But, man, E.J. Smith.
He had a good game, man. He did.
A really good game.
Yeah.
5 carries for 36 yards.
They were good carries.
Another 44 on 2 catches, including a 26-yarder. And he was making guys miss. He was running patient. Good for him. A 70-yard game in a bowl game against SC. Maybe it was because he was playing back against an old Pac-12 opponent. I don't know. Maybe it's because his family was there. I saw them walking on the field before the game. But I like seeing it. He's done everything right this year. Came in, didn't get much burn early, got more late. And I thought I just didn't want to go through this thing without mentioning
he had a nice game
he had, because that's what the bowl games are about. You get an opportunity, you take advantage of it, you help your team, give your team a chance to win. And he certainly did that. He played. If they'd have won that game, he might have been he's one of the unsung heroes of that football game.
I agree with that. Billy, thank you. Thank you to everybody watching, and thanks.
Who do you think's winning the playoffs this weekend?
I don't know. Texas is going to win. I'm 50-50 on Georgia, Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to lean Notre Dame, which is hard for me to do because I'm so used to picking Georgia all the time. I'm starting to go that direction. I think Ohio State beats Oregon. And
people just fell asleep on Oregon because we haven't watched them in a few weeks, huh?
Yeah. No, but
I feel that way a little bit.
The Ohio State that I saw, that team talent-wise, that defense, and when Will Howard is good, man. But who would have a better chance?
And they could have beaten Oregon at Oregon, but this is Ohio State not playing in the horseshoe.
Right. That's true.
And this is
Who's
Ohio
got a better
State.
chance to beat Texas, though, Ohio State or Oregon?
I like Dylan Gabriel against Texas. I like Ohio State's physicality better against Texas. And I do think Texas is going to smash. I made a joke just to piss them off. Arizona State 34-31. Arizona State will not score 34. Texas will score. Well, they should score more than 31. But this feels like one of those games where we're going to walk away going, oh, no one can beat Texas. And hopefully that's that peak before the fall. Because that game at the Cotton Bowl against Oregon or Ohio State, a lot of people are going to think that's for the national title, and that's going to be selling Georgia way too short. But I like Texas to blow them out. I think I like Oregon in that one in a shootout. Maybe the most entertaining game of the weekend. Probably the most entertaining game of the weekend. I like them in a really close game. It's going to be like an epic Rose Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Pac-12, Big Ten, Oregon, Ohio State. I mean, it's like going to be a beautiful. It's going to look and feel like the Rose Bowl. So we're getting that as a playoff. Who's the other one?
Boise State, Penn State.
Oh no, okay. So I like Georgia still.
Okay.
I worry about a young quarterback against that defense a lot. At least he got a half against that Texas defense. I think Notre Dame losing their D tackle. That guy is a beast.
Yeah.
He was an animal all year, going all the way back to. He's a big Shane Gillis guy. Gillis loved him. We were talking during. Gillis knows Notre Dame like we, like
A&M.
us and the listeners know A&M. It's like telling me their backstories on like every player, like what they were as a recruit, where they came from, like what they're. Oh, he's from this high school where they, like that dude's a big loss, and I'm looking at Notre Dame's offense against Georgia's defense, and I saw what Georgia's defense has done to Texas in 2 meetings.
Yeah.
It makes me go, well, what's Notre Dame going to really score against these guys? But this is the year that everybody beats these SEC teams that you're not supposed to.
Right.
It feels that way. So, but I like Georgia in that one, Nuño in a close one, and then Penn State, Boise. Is anybody picking Boise?
I'm not.
Are we all picking against?
As right
Genty?
now, I'm a Penn State guy.
No one's gentying.
Mm-mm.
Neither am I. I like Penn State. James Franklin.
Your boy.
He's another one of my guys. I love James Franklin as a coach. I think he gets no credit for doing, it's been a long time since Penn State's been as good as he's made them.
Yeah.
He just can't. He hasn't won the big one, and I don't count beating SMU at home as the big one. But if you
beating Boise State,
but if you beat SMU and Boise, you're playing in the Final Four,
and that's huge.
And they can beat Notre Dame, and they can give that defense can give Georgia. They can beat Georgia same way. Georgia's going to have to literally just get in the mud, and rip the gloves off and get in a street fight for 12 quarters to win a national title. They're going to have to win it like Alabama used to have to do it and just beat you up and run the football. And I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they can get by Notre Dame and Penn State and Oregon, Texas, or Ohio State. I think one of the winner is going to come out of those three.
I agree.
The winner is going to be whoever wins the Cotton Bowl in a couple weeks. And that pains me to say because
it might be,
I'm going to get bookmarked into oblivion if that happens. Not to mention the offseason we're all going to have to deal with. So, what we got? Go, Cam Scattaboo. I said last week I'm getting my Scattaboo jersey. I haven't got it yet, but I need to try to find one in a hurry. Quarterback at Arizona State had to run his mouth though, didn't he?
He did.
He just felt like let me press conferences, man. You media types. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow on TexAgs
Thanks
Live.
to our listeners, our angry listeners, our happy listeners. We're going to come with a lot of content, guys. And those of you that want to raise hell, and raise hell respectfully.
So-
Just do it the right way.
Fun, memories, friendship. We're here for all of it. Here for the big moments and the small ones too. We're here for unforgettable triumph, momentary misfortune, and the impromptu throwdown. We're out here each day, chasing something great. Call it adventure, call it play, we call it fun. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.